Hello everybody and welcome to Sin City Living. My name is Jason. I'll be bringing you today's episode. As always, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. We have a ton of content coming out for you guys every single week. We don't want you to miss a thing. Our usual shout out of appreciation to our patrons. All those tips and support are highly appreciated. It's only going to go towards making the channel better. We're hoping to add a lot more games to the channel, such as roulette, video keno, video poker, carnival games, things along those lines. We just want to do it right. It's going to be very expensive, so it's going to take some time. You could help us out if you wanted to. If not, no big deal. We appreciate you guys just tuning in. But if you're curious about it, go ahead and check the description down below this video on the patronage. And for our patrons, we do hope you are appreciating those patron-only exclusive videos we're putting out for you guys every single week. If you have anything you'd like to see, just email us on the site. We're more than happy to film it for you. As for the rest of you, please continue tuning in. We have, like I said, a ton of content coming out. And if you have any suggestions, questions, strategies, anything related to craps, baccarat, blackjack, pai gow, casinos, Vegas in general, just go ahead and shoot us an email at sincityliving@gmail.com. We absolutely love to shoot these videos for you guys. It is our favorite thing to do. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump into today's video. So this week's video is going to be based off an email from one of our fans. It's going to be answering a couple of questions that he asked. I'm going to answer them out of order. I'm going to answer a second question first, but his two questions dealt with the electronics craps tables and with changing your strategy up based upon the shooter. He was pointing out that his rolls seemed to go pretty decent, and there were some shooters that seemed like every time they were shooting there was a 0.7 out. He was wondering about the viability of switching back and forth between, say, don't pass and DCs versus place bets and pass line bets, depending on the shooter. And my answer to that is yes and no. Yes and no. I'll start with the no part. The no part is just sheer math and science behind it, and the fact that people don't have magical powers, so the likelihood of someone having a fantastic roll is the same as any other person. They're mathematically and scientifically just is the person, as long as they're hitting the back wall, which they're supposed to do, their likelihood is no different than any other person's. You start running into the gambler's fallacy again. And the thing that I caution you on as you're assessing other shooters is to understand a couple things. The biggest thing, the number one thing to understand, is that the bad rolls stick out in your head. The bad rolls and the bad results stick out in your head. The good ones don't. And I'll give you an example. All those players, and by the way, if you're wondering why this is blank, it's supposed to be blank, it's supposed to be boring, and I'll explain why in the later part of this video, because I'm actually going to use this as an example of answering the other part of the question. But an example would be dice hitting the chips when they get thrown, or dice going off the table. There's so many players, the dice go off the table, then a 7-out comes. And they'll be like, every single time the dice go off the table, it's always a 7-out. Or every single time the dice hit the chips, it's always a 7-out. Or every single time there's a stick change, the dealers rotate, it's always a 7-out. There's so many players that will turn their bets off at a stick change, the dice going off the table, things along those lines. Well, here's the thing. Every single time, absolutely not. 1 in 6 times. 1 in 6 times, on average, is when you're going to have that 7-out following the dice going off the table, the dice hitting a chip, or a stick change. But the dice go flying off the table. That's an anomalous event, so it sticks out in people's heads. And then 6 rolls. That's bland, boring, every day. Nobody remembers it. But the 7 that rolls right after, if that happens, everybody remembers it. So all those dice go off the table 7s, those stick out in your head, and you remember them, and it's the only things you remember about any rolls after the dice go off the table. So therefore, in your mind, to your memory, every single time the dice go off the table, a 7 comes. Because you don't remember the 5 out of 6 other times when it's just a plain, boring, everyday, another number, just like, and the game just keeps on going, the dice keep on flowing, and it doesn't stick out in your head. So that's one of the things I caution you on as you're assessing these things. Oh, I'm going to switch my strategy because this player just keeps throwing a 0.7 out. Sure, but their 0.7 outs are sticking out in your head. The 5-minute roll maybe they had 30 minutes ago is sticking out in your head, or the 12-minute roll. I have seen so many players that did a 0.7 out 3 times as it went around the table, so 3 times in, say, 30 minutes. And then the 4th time they rolled for 25, 35, 40 minutes. I have seen that more times than I can tell you, because the likelihood of them rolling a fantastic roll is just as likely as anybody else. It does not matter what they've done in the past. That does not change anything. That's like saying, 5 7s have rolled in a row. There's no way that another 7's going to roll. The chances are still 1 in 6. It's a gambler's fallacy that the previous results influence the next result. It doesn't work that way. That's just not how it happens. So that is the no part of my answer. But the yes part of my answer is to remember that this is a game. This is a game, and this is entertainment, and you're supposed to be having fun with it. And if part of your fun is trying to adjust your game, then do it. Why not? What is it hurting you? It's not hurting you any to adjust your game, to change it. Maybe it's more fun for you. It's kind of like people that they bet the don'ts except when they're shooting. Their likelihood of rolling great is no different than anybody else's, and it amuses us. I'll tell you, if it's one of those players that's just constantly jibber-jabbering about how they need to get the dice because they're fantastic rollers, they're great rollers, so on and so forth, at that point, by the time the dice get to them, every single dealer is going to try and struggle so hard not to laugh when the player does a .7 out. Because they're just, oh, give me the dice, I'm a great shooter, I always throw great 7 out. And because we know that the statistical likelihood does not change. You're not a great shooter. You're just a clown, is what we think when we see this person that's just going and going and going and going and going. But the quiet ones that are just standing there waiting, they do a couple small bets, but then when it's their turn, they play the pass line. Well, by all means, why not? You're having fun. It's entertainment. I mean, who are you going to bet on if you're not going to bet on yourself? I mean, you can pick random people to bet on, but isn't it more fun when you bet on yourself? Aren't you doing this to have fun? Because if you're doing this to pay your bills, you might want to talk to somebody. You're supposed to be doing this to entertain yourself, to have fun. So why not bet on yourself? So if you're doing this for entertainment and to have fun, why not go with your gut? So if you want to mix your strategy up a little bit here and there, as long as you're not breaking the bank doing it or just annihilating your bankroll, sure, why not? If you want to switch to the don't pass for certain players, by all means, go for it. But be aware enough to realize that their odds of rolling a .7 out or something is no different than anybody else's. But if suddenly the dice seem to be going cold and a lot of people switch to the don't, I see that happen all the time. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, it's tough to hit a moving target, but honestly, there is absolutely nothing wrong with switching up your strategy here and there, as long as you understand that your reasons for doing it, and just have fun with it. This is a game. I can't stress enough how this is supposed to be fun. Craps can be the most fun game of them all. Now, for the other question, the electronics crap tables and my opinion of them. For those of you that don't know, they started coming out with these tables, these craps tables, that they are electronic. Across the rail along the top, there's no chips, basically. There will be no chips on the table. And it's just going to be a lot more lights. And you will use credit card, or maybe you insert cash, just like a slot machine, to start playing. And for those of you guys that have played the slot craps or bubble craps, things like that, it's going to be very similar. You're going to have a very similar interface up top. And you're going to place your bets on the computer screen. What numbers you may want to place, any hoppers, stuff like that. You're going to put all your bets, you're going to type all your bets in. There's only one dealer on this game. That dealer is in control of the stick, in control of the dice. That dealer basically passes the dice and marks what numbers have rolled. Everything else is handled by the table, by the computer inside the table. And this person's question was, they said it seemed like the game was nowhere near as fun, and that the dealer didn't seem to be having as much fun and such. He did say it was a $5 table, which made sense because they were paying less in labor. They only had one dealer instead of 4. Not to mention a lot of mistakes are eliminated, payer mistakes or payout mistakes, and shots that players could take. You can't say, oh, I bet this, when you typed in your own frickin' bet. So they said it just seemed like a lot less fun, a lot more subdued. People didn't seem to be having as much fun. There wasn't any excitement to the table and all that. But I want you to look at your computer, or look at your screen right now. Does that look fun? Because that is what you're staring at. all that is going are dice. There's no motion. There's no dealers handing out payouts. There's no 10 voices. I want this. Give me this. 3-way that. Crap. Give me a horn high this. All the hard ways. Press my hard way. Parlay this. Press 2 units. Parlay that. All that is gone. It's all gone. It's just type it into a screen, and then the computer flashes up your winnings on the screen in front of you. That's it. There's no chips flying. There's no voices screaming. None of that. So you tell me if you'd be having fun, if you'd be excited, if you'd be high energy on that. And I will tell you this, that my suspicion is that those electronic dice tables are going to be most popular outside of Las Vegas, possibly casinos that have just recently had laws passed that allow them to do craps, or even overseas where craps is not nearly as popular. You go to Macau, good luck finding a craps table, and if you do find one, you'll definitely be able to get a spot because it's just not popular at all. Whereas in the U.S., it's extremely popular. Well, outside of Las Vegas, you're more likely to have places that are just introducing it. They're not sure, or they don't have enough dealers to know how to deal it. You don't have to have anybody that knows how to deal it with this. All you have to do is have somebody that can push the dice with a stick. They don't even have to do that skillfully because there's no chips to dodge, and can type in a number into the system. So that's one way around being able to get skilled dealers. Here within Vegas, it has been experimented with at a few places because these tables have actually been around for quite some time, years. But it's only been experimented with here in Las Vegas because it wasn't very popular. It wasn't very well liked. It didn't have the same energy. It didn't have the same number of players. Just wasn't the same. So people didn't play it. People didn't like it. So it's slowly faded away. There might still be one or two around town. I don't know. I haven't heard of any. I actually I have a friend that's dealt on one of them when it was being experimented with at one of the casinos. So it may still be around here in Vegas, but highly difficult to find. And like I said, it's not going to catch on out here. So I hope this answers the question. Thank you very, very much for sending it to us. And we will catch you guys next time. Bye now.